everyone, and welcome to episode 13 of The Best You, a coaching podcast. It's Gary here again, and I'd like to take this opportunity, as always, to thank you very, very much for taking the time to join me. And I hope that you're doing great, and I hope that you're also investing in whatever work it is you've committed to personally to getting you closer to the best version of you right now. I wanted to start with asking where you are in the world, literally where you are listening to this in the world. And if you can get in touch with me and let me know, I can be reached at hello@garygillen.com is my email address, or you can reach me on LinkedIn as well. And the reason I ask that is I wonder what literal weather events you're going through right now, what season you're in, wherever you are in the world. Is it springing for you? Or if you're in the southern hemispheres, for example, are you approaching the autumn time? I know it's a wee bit different to where things rest in terms of where I am in North America here. And I did mention the weather on the last episode of The Best You, and I was kind of lamenting. I wasn't complaining. I was just kind of lamenting the difference. You know, you get to a point where you think it's going to be proper spring and start to look at the spring clothes and get yourselves a bit organised, and then winter re-hits again, and we had another episode like that. But I was more really wondering that the topic of this pod is consistency, and the benefits of consistency, and the drawbacks of inconsistency. And it started to make me think that when we're talking about the weather, and how do we work with and handle the inconsistencies of the weather, or put another way, how do we deal with the inconsistencies of the elements that we simply cannot control? You know, we'll then react, we'll adjust, course correct, we'll do something like that, won't we? And we might lament it, of course, especially if there's a weather event that's in some way destructive to whatever it is you had planned or have going on, or to your property, or even to your health. You know, for example, storms or flash floods or hurricanes and such. But what we kind of do fairly quickly, as far as I can tell, is we acknowledge it, we feel what we feel, we manage our emotions, and then we react in some way that will help us move forward. And that's for stuff that we don't get to control. That's for items that we can't control, of course, the weather. But what about the things that we can control, or that we think that we can control, but in reality we don't really have as much control as we think we do? I'll just ponder that for a wee minute, or ask you to ponder that for a wee minute, and just that's what we'll discuss today. That's what we'll get into in terms of the content, the majority of the content for today. So in this episode we will walk through the recent blog that's centred on the impacts of consistency and inconsistency. But before all of that, I'll give you a wee bit of an overview of what I've been up to since we last chatted. Like before, I always start with the coaching part, and that is my core passion. And the one-on-one coaching that I get to do is just incredible. The impact that I get to affect in some way and support clients through whatever it is they're trying to do at any given point in time is just such an honour, such a blessing, such a privilege. And what I've actually noticed more as we kind of creep into the springtime here is that there seems to be a wee bit more activity, a wee bit more interest, a little bit more traffic on the website, and more inquiries coming in to see what coaching is about, whether it's going to be something that would be part of a support journey for someone or not, such things like that. So I'm starting to kind of get a wee feeling of potential coaching seasons, at the same time. So that's kind of fascinating to be able to see some potential patterns evolving. I'm still working through the journaling, and if you haven't attempted journaling at some point, please do get in touch, and I'll let you know what my story is with that, and how I can help support you in any way about that. But I've still been doing that, and that's about 2 months now. I actually checked that just not long before recording to see how long I'd been consistently doing it. And as I think I mentioned before, it's certainly absolutely every morning I do it, and probably about 75, 80, maybe 85% of the evenings I'll do my kind of evening review and just see how things went. And it's really helping with setting intentions, knowing the things that are repeating, that I'm not progressing, the things that I'm not repeating because I have progressed them, and they're kind of in my rear view mirror now, and it's a real good testimony or testament to the progress that we get to make each and every day. I'm also closing in on, I guess I could call it graduation from the Mastermind Launchpad Accelerator program, which has been a fantastic learning experience and great help in helping me understand the nuances of building a practice, building a business, both practically the steps that I would take to build the business, and emotionally what I would go through, what I can expect to go through as I go through the nuances, which is definitely not a straight line of building a business, creating a presence, and moving forward into the business world. It's been, folks, honestly, it's been an absolutely incredible journey, and I've been in the mastermind community doing this type and style of courses since around about August-ish. I did like a preliminary kind of light touch course, very similar to this, and then the accelerator program was just a little bit more in depth, a little bit more hands-on, and with lots more support from the mastermind academic or supporting community too. So it's been great, and I would be really interested to hear from you, if especially if we have dealt with each other before, if you have noticed any difference in the last 6, 8, 10 months or so, 6, 8 months, I guess it probably is, to see whether, the interactions have been more pointed, have been, you've been wondering what the hell I've been up to. What's this guy talking about? I don't even know. What does that even mean? But, I like to try and use any opportunity I can to stop and pause and reflect and learn from the reflections and then take action going forward. So if you have any comments on anything that you've seen or experienced, good or bad, that is absolutely fine. Honestly, folks, I would be more than happy to hear from you. I have been developing and taking a bit more seriously the development of my curriculum for my course that's going to help you identify and remove or reduce the impact of blockers in your life. And I'm really looking forward, probably actually next time that I record the pod, the curriculum should be done, almost done. Very, very close to being completed, and I will be on a bit of an advertising campaign, so you'll hear a wee bit about that going forward. I won't oversell it, I just want to explain it and give you a bit of an idea of what you might be able to expect if you decide to pursue something like that. I was also fortunate enough to get a guest speaker spot at a local college called SAIT, the Southern Alberta Institute of Technology, and I got a chance to speak to some of the students, the database administrator students, about the process of interviewing and how to be prepared for interviews, what to expect in interviews, and a little bit about social media presence as well, specifically on LinkedIn, because that's really the only one that I am in any way good at. Actually, that's quite a judgment there. I don't even know if I'm good at it on LinkedIn. It's the only one I'm consistently in. And I've done a lot more continued networking as I continue to build through the business at the same time. On the books on the go, Coaching for Performance by Sir John Whitmore is going very slow, I have to admit. But what I did do was that I did a wee bit of a pivot on the professional development book that I'm concentrating on right now. And I've changed to a book called The Prosperous Coach. And that's by authors Steve Chandler and Rich Litvin. And the reason that I pivoted to that is I had two colleagues tell me fairly recently about this book. I'd never heard of the book, quite honestly, beforehand, but it seemed to be kind of where I'm at in my journey in terms of building or trying to build the business and going through that growth journey in and of myself, that they thought that would be a good read for me. So I said, okay, what I typically do is I go onto Amazon and I'll make a purchase. When I went onto Amazon, I don't know if it's out of print anymore or something like that, but it was a lot more than I would typically expect to pay for a business book. It was about 50 or 60 Canadian dollars or something like that. And I thought, I don't know about that. So what I did was I gave myself a bit of a new experience, which I haven't done a lot of in my life. And I got a membership for the library, and I put a hold or a reservation on the book, and the book has come in subsequently. So I have 3 weeks to read it before I have to give it back. So I should hopefully have a wee bit of an overview of that book for you come the next pod. Okay, so on to a brief summary of the blog number 14, which was on consistency, as I mentioned earlier. So why talk about consistency at this particular point in time? So I was basically thinking about the variety of people that I have in my life, and the expectations that kind of surround them. Not so much my own literal expectations of a person per se, but what I've come to expect of them in my interactions over the years. And I guess that's probably a version of my own stereotyping of the people, and you start to observe things about certain people. Some are, for example, great timekeepers, others not so much. I'm myself a work in progress in terms of timekeeping, and I think I probably always will be, but it's a lot better now than it used to be. Some are just generally always happy, others not so much. Some are very helpful, some are supportive. You get the gist. Now, break that down a wee bit more. How do you then start to navigate with people who are inconsistent? Sometimes they're on time, sometimes they're not. Sometimes they're happy, sometimes they're sad, sometimes they're angry, sometimes they're in a good mood, sometimes they're in a bad mood, sometimes they're helpful, unhelpful, supportive, unsupportive, fun, not so much. But they're just not that all the time. What's your coping mechanism with that is where I'm going with this. Like, do you just wait and see what you get and then react accordingly? Or do you simply work on yourself and your own consistency and influence and impact that you bring and give to people, and then you navigate the experiences that come your way in this fashion? Now, this isn't a pod that's dedicated to deep-rooted psychoanalysis of the human mind and behaviours, or anything. It's a bit of an overview of just the impacts and such, but it did give me pause for thought enough to write the previous blog, of course, and to record this pod for you. So I did start the blog with a bit of an example, and it was something that's in mind for me all the time, because on my desk I have a Rubik's Cube, and I used to be able to solve the Rubik's Cube in fairly quick time. I think my best time ever was something like 1 minute 19 seconds, 1 minute 9 seconds, maybe something. I can't remember. I think I've probably got a photograph somewhere. But I used to be able to do it very consistently. I used to have it in the office, in the workplace, prior to the pandemic, and it was just a fantastic experience to be able to just take a wee break every now and again. And the break, as I say, was only kind of 1 to 2 minutes, depending on how quickly I got to solve. And I would do it with my colleague Crystal, who kind of sat across from me at the time, and we would time it each day. And she was pretty much disinterested in it, to be perfectly honest. But it was something to do, just to kind of pass a bit of time and just retrain my brain, or kind of give myself a little bit of a boost in terms of concentrating on something different other than work. Then fast forward to today, it's literally a desk ornament. It doesn't do anything else other than sit there and make me feel bad, because I've scrambled it and I can't redo it again. My journey before was to literally learn how to do it through YouTube. And I went through YouTube and I got it. And my first solve, I remember my dad and my sister visiting, and I think we solved it in about an hour, about 60 minutes or so, something like that. And it was such a monumental achievement. My dad was like, "Oh my word, thank goodness you're done." He wasn't as polite as that, by the way. And then after that, it became 54 minutes, 59, 48, 42, and so on and so forth, to the point. And now, as I say, it's just an ornament. I forget the steps that I took because I wasn't consistent in my practice, was the key point of that. So have you ever stopped to think about how consistent you are in different facets of your life? You could be very consistent in some things, but not so consistent in other things. For example, I mentioned earlier, timekeeping, your ability to be able to be organised, pay the bills on to, like, whatever it is, what areas are you stronger in, and what are they not, and why? And we'll get to that in a wee while here as well. But I also posed a question of thinking about, in your life, who do you believe, or who do you consider to be the most consistent person in your life, and why do you think that is? And have you ever asked them how they manage to be as consistent about the things that you observe and notice about them? And if not, maybe you want to do that. Maybe take a wee note right now and just start to think about who that person is and what type and style of consistency resonates with you and how they do it. And the main point of the entire blog and this podcast, of course, is that consistency just does not happen overnight. You have to chart a path and work towards that path, whether it's a goal, objective, an outcome, whatever it is you're targeting, and then consistently work towards that to get to the point where you genuinely reap the benefits that you're trying to reap by the investment of time, effort, energy, and such. And as I mentioned, there's a caveat in every pod every blog that I do, that I always concentrate on the positive side of things. So I know that you could be consistent at something that's bad. You could be consistent at not working out, at eating unhealthy, at spending too much time on social media, on screens, whatever that looks like. I'm always focusing on the positive stuff, so it's not to say that there's not another school of thought out there, but let's concentrate on the positive stuff, exacerbate the positive items, and then hopefully that will serve you a little bit better going through your life. So what is consistency? It's your commitment to doing something regularly to achieve your desired long-term goal or outcome. And as I said earlier, there has to be a common understanding that immediate rewards shouldn't be anticipated or shouldn't be overly anticipated or expected. You might get some beginner gains for sure, and the beginner gains are great, and they're certainly motivating to help you continue to move forward, but the majority of the gains will be achieved over a longer period of time. And it includes three major factors. It includes your commitment to actually being consistent, the regularity with which you demonstrate the consistency, and the progress in monitoring and utilising the information from the progress that you make as you go through the journey. So I then talked a little bit about patience, because obviously if it's a longer term commitment, there's not going to be that quick hit, that quick fix that possibly you would be looking for, depending on what it is you're trying to get more consistency in. So then from a patience perspective, or not a patient as in a hospital patient, do you consider yourself a patient person? I don't think that I'm such a patient person. Again, work in progress, and certainly in my younger years I was a lot more impatient than I am now, but I do feel that genuinely I am willing to wait for what I want, and the knowledge that I'll eventually get to the point of satisfaction of what I want if I'm consistent, if I work hard, if I know the steps I need to take, if I take the steps, if I monitor my progress and course correct as I go through the journey. And it takes work for me to do that. It takes intention for me to do that, and it's not something on a lot of occasions that's absolutely natural. So it's a lot of work. And then being impatient, the feeling of being impatient is frustrating for me. It makes me a little bit sadder than I was before. So that's another area that I use as evidence or information to be able to move forward and say, I don't want to feel impatient anymore. So I have time management techniques. If I'm early for something, I have something to do. If someone's late for something, I always have something to do to help me get to a spot where the impatience doesn't override my emotion of why I'm there, or my intention and emotion of why I'm there and why I'm doing what I'm doing in the first place. And it's the same if I don't see instantaneous or early stage results that I was hoping to see. It's a long game. We try and invest and just be kind to myself and be as patient as I possibly can be. Then talked about what consistency isn't, and it's not about a quick fix. It's not about perfection. It's not about just going through the motions or sticking to a path and not having any flexibility or opportunity to course correct if things aren't working out. And I'm subscribed to the Peloton community, and if you don't know what that is, it's an online fitness community, and I've got the bike and the tread and all the other bits and pieces of equipment that I need to be able to get myself, or to keep myself in decent and reasonable shape. And what I hear there a lot, I don't know if they coined the phrase, so if someone else coined the phrase, my apologies, but it's about progress, not perfection. So being consistent is not about perfection. It's not about achieving or attaining perfection. It's all about making steady progress towards where you want to go. And applying this sentiment when building into consistency should hopefully help to set achievable and appropriate goals for you as you kind of move forward at the same time. So then I went to talk about the path to consistency, and essentially there are seven or eight parts to this. You have to set your intention, and ideally your intention aligns with your core values. And if you don't have any experience in core values, take a wee peek at my website. You can see the blog or the pod previously on core values. Identify goals that align with your intentions. Again, there's another pod and blog out there about intentions. Create actions. And once you know, so you're going a little bit deeper here. Once you know what it is you're striving for at a strategic level, start to break that down into actionable items that you can work towards. Establish a realistic timeline. Determine your motivation. Why are you doing what you're doing? Who is it for? What are you hoping to get at the end? So that as things maybe get tough, as you start to question why you're doing what you're doing in the first place, you can then go back to your motivations and say, no, this is important. I do need to do this thing because this other person is relying on me to do it, or I would like to be able to participate in this type and style of event, or whatever your motivation is, of course. Create a routine around it. That's going to be difficult in the beginning. Maybe in the beginning you have a little bit of novelty factor and it's kind of fun, and then the novelty wears off and you have to then stick to the routine and do a lot of it when no one is watching. So then that comes back to your own motivation, the self-motivation in particular. Prioritize whatever your routine is and have that self-discipline. That's a bit of a kind of stage beyond the creation of the routine. And then measure your success as you go forward. And the only things that are absolute straight lines and are things that are created by human beings. Everything else is a bit of a wavy line, or a line that looks like a squiggle or something like that. But so expect that and anticipate that. And some days it's going to be 3 steps forward, some days it's going to be 1.5 steps back. But monitoring your progress, seeing and feeling the progress, thinking about the things you can do today as a result of the routine and habits that you have established, and then getting to the point where you can celebrate the successes as you move forward. So I provided a bit of an example on the blog about that, just in terms of it was losing weight was really like the health or fitness goal there. So why do you want to lose weight? To get to have a healthier lifestyle, to be a good role model for my kids. I want to lose 25 pounds by June the 30th. Now that's what I literally wrote on the blog. I keep getting the pod and blog mixed up this week for some reason, but I wrote that on the blog. And then I got challenged on that because losing 25 pounds by June is a bit unrealistic, Gary, because it's March. And I said, well, I don't know when anyone's going to listen to this. Someone could listen to this in September, and then losing 25 pounds by June might be a bit more realistic. Someone could listen to it in December. Someone could listen to it in January. It doesn't matter when you listen to it. You just make the goal realistic to where you're at and what it is you're trying to do. You have more chance of achieving it, and earning the benefits as you move through that as well. And any actions would be joining a gym, personal trainer, getting the proper apparel, looking at your existing nutrition habits and such, creating the timeline of what it is you're going to do, the motivations about getting deeper. I want to be able to spend time with my kids. When they ask to go to the park, I want to be able to go to the park. I don't want to be out of breath just walking up the stairs to go and see what they need. Those types and styles of motivations, and then just setting it in to say, start small. I'm going to go and I'm going to work out twice a week for 30 minutes, and then in month 2 I'm going to work out 3 times a week for 40 minutes and such. And then giving yourself that opportunity. When I get to the prioritization, the practicalities of the prioritization and self-discipline, I think you need to do something absolutely that works for you, and also you need to communicate this to your community to get the help and support that you would hope to get to be able to move through. And and be supported. When someone says, oh, you best be off, it's gym time, or, oh, that's right, you got up early in the morning to go to the gym. So having some level of accountability within your community is going to help you at the same time. And then the measures, you could be measuring your waistline, you could be measuring your weight, you could be measuring, how your skin looks if you've changed your diet, you could be measuring how your clothes look on you. Whatever your measures of success are, put them into place. Actually do the measurements, see what the measurements are telling you, the information you're getting from them, and then move on. And what I would recommend is you write all of this down. You write it down, you revisit it regularly, you course correct, as I've mentioned a couple of times already, to get yourself to a spot where you're in good shape, to literally on this example, but where you're in good shape to be able to know how you're doing, what you're doing, and what the benefits that you're reaping are, or not, if it's not going the way that you're hoping it is to go. Now, one of the main things about consistency, I think it's relatively easy in the realms of consistency to build up to a level of consistency, but then maintaining it. I mentioned briefly earlier there, like, you're doing a lot of this on your own. There's a lot of self-motivation. There's a lot of things that people don't see about what you're doing. And in my experience, the build, getting to that kind of point, that foundational point, is way more exciting than the maintenance. It's literally just more exciting, because I think during the build stage, you can see the progress as more obvious, more palpable, if you like. And when you get to the maintenance part, but understanding, I guess, back to the journey, the build part is only a part of the story, and most of the times it's only a very small part of the story, and it's the maintenance that gives you the opportunity for longevity and the types, styles of benefits and comforts and wins that you're looking for as you progress through. I did provide in the blog a house building example, and just in terms of the build is exciting because you see it all being built, and then over the 30, 40, 50, 60 year life cycle of the building, no one really kind of cares. No one really sees the maintenance you do to keep it heated, to keep the water okay, to keep clean, to keep it livable and healthy and such. So you can take a read at that at your leisure. And then the major considerations of maintaining the consistency is staying focused on your why. I mentioned why briefly earlier in the previous example. You need to be appreciative of why this is important to you, why this specific goal, why this preferred end state, why now, why you. And if you can consistently go back to your why, you're going to be in much, much better shape as times go on, as times maybe progress to the point where you might start to waver a wee bit on that. You don't want to do any wavering. Managing distractions is so critical. And now I think it's probably always been critical, but in this distraction rich environment and culture that we live in today, you need to be able to remove all of the distractions, or most of the distractions, or at least reduce them to a point where they're not actually going to get in your way, and you're going to prioritize you for what you need to do. Embracing the changes that come along. As I mentioned earlier, nothing's generally in a straight line, so you know as much as you know right now, and when you know better, you'll do better. So when you get forward, you move and you say, right, okay, that actually doesn't work, that time of day doesn't suit, these are other changes and kind of strategy adjustments that I'm going to take as I move forward. Then you'll be in much better shape to be more aware, consciously aware of how things are going, and be resilient. This isn't going to be easy. Meaningful change is not easy for everyone, and you need to have a level of resiliency, and there might be some things you have to give up in order to get some of the gains that you're looking for as you move forward, and just being aware of that at the same time is going to help you and your mindset as you go forward. And then demonstrating patience. I mentioned that at the top of the pod here. It's a long game, it's a long-term practice, and you're looking to try and get to where you want to get to as quickly as you can, but knowing that it's not going to be super quick. It's going to be longer, depending, of course, on what it is you're trying to be and get consistent. And the benefits of consistency: you will improve your skills, you'll have greater predictability, increased confidence, enhanced relationships, and the potential for satisfaction of your long-term goals. Absolutely. And folks, it's just simply easier to deal with people who are consistent, isn't it? And think about the three people that are closest to you in your life. How much do you admire or enjoy them? You know, you could have people that are very close to you in your life that you enjoy a wee bit less than some other people who are maybe not so close to you, you know, but how consistent are they in their actions? And there's going to be a correlation to how much you enjoy spending time with someone, you know, and how consistent they are, how consistent they are in their presence and their moods and their energy, their timekeeping, availability, generosity, and just general funness at the same time. I'm not sure if funness is a word, but it is for the purposes of this particular part of the pod. And the consequences of inconsistency, it can be very difficult dealing with inconsistent people, especially the more you start to notice it, and especially the more it has an impact on you and your life and your routine and your timekeeping and your habits and the things that you're actually trying to do. And it could be decreased productivity, a delay in achieving or attaining your goals, communication challenges, strained relationships. There could be some reputational damage to yourself personally, to your organisation, to your community, reduced opportunities. People just don't want to deal with people who are inconsistent, and then that could come with a lot of negative self-talk. I knew I wasn't going to be good at this. I'm always rubbish at this. I'll never ever get to the spot where people are going to rely on me for this thing, and that just becomes, you know, and that becomes very difficult to manage, and it takes a lot to get away from that, and it could then lead to a loss of motivation. What's the point of even trying? So to get a wee bit more consistency in your life, you know, where I finished off essentially on the blog was seek feedback from people. Genuinely seek feedback. How's my, I keep going back to timekeeping for some reason, but how's my timekeeping? You know, how are, you know, do I show up the same way all the time? You know, how predictable am I in the things that matter to you? And gaining and seeking honest feedback from tried and you know, honest resources is going to give you the best opportunity to be able to learn. You know, have accountability partners. You know, make sure I leave the house by this time. You know, and give me the gears, even if it looks like I'm not motivated, and don't take an excuse. Things like that. Record your journey. Write it down. This is maybe where the journaling comes in, or in however else you're going to capture your journey. But you want to be able to chronicle how you did, what you did, why you did it, when you did it, and what the outcomes were. It could be a very compelling story for someone else at some point in terms of trying to motivate other people to do just what you did. And review it regularly. Review whatever it is you're writing down to make sure that you can adjust as you need to go forward, and then take action. If something is working, continue to do it. If something is not working, you know, figure out why and course correct, and you know, just constantly have this evolving mindset is the best way to think about your approach to consistency as you go forward. I finished off the blog with a typical Coach Gaz challenge, and just to rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being rubbish, absolutely dung at being consistent, and 5 being I'm the best of the best. If there was a world championship of consistency, you would be looking at it right now. And then you can break it down, as I mentioned earlier, into areas of your life, you know, your home life, your work life, your community life, your sports life, your health life, your parenting life, your sister, your brother, parent, son, you know, whatever it looks like. And then start to see the patterns. What areas are you more consistent in? What areas are you less consistent in? Why? And what are you going to do with that? And as I say, please get in touch if you need any support on that. I would be more than happy to help you out on anything like that. Okie dokie, my friends. So I hope this episode of the Best You, a Coaching Podcast, was a valuable use of your time, and that you will continue to join me as we move forward together. If you did find it valuable, I would really appreciate if you would pass it on to someone else who you think would also gain value from it, as we continue to try and build our community as we move forward together. And please do that. You know, please do that. I think I provided the call to action last time to share it with at least one person. I don't think I've seen any discernible changes in the numbers. So maybe I just need to keep asking, and eventually you'll be like, oh, okay, just to shut this guy up. But if not, please do share it. Spread the love a little bit if you can. Don't forget to check out the website, garygillen.com, for anything else that you might want to see, including archived episodes of the pod and the blog at the same time. And until next time, please do take care of yourself, and all the very best to you in your journey. And I will talk to you very soon, my friends. Okay, take care for now. Cheerio.